More chaos on the streets of the capital. Riot police are pummeled with rocks, paint and other projectiles as protesters run riot. Officers wore heavy armour and they needed all the protection they could get as anything and everything was thrown their way. Before long, police were on the charge, forcing demonstrators back with batons and tear gas. While some protesters came looking for a fight, many others just wanted to be heard.
In general, the movement is peaceful, but each time there's extreme police violence. There are children, young people and the elderly who've come to support this movement.
Retired nurse Liliane says she's protesting for the sake of younger workers who are putting in long, hard hours.
You can see my hunched back. A nurse who works in an intensive care unit like I did for 12 years. By the time she's 30, she's done.
President Macron insists raising the pension age from 62 to 64 is the only way to make the system sustainable. Even then, it would still be lower than in many other European countries. But protesters are hoping to force a rethink.
We work to live off our pensions, and it's unacceptable that they're adding 2 more years. What's more, for women, we're completely at a disadvantage.
There's so much anger, protesters even tried to torch a Paris restaurant favoured by the president. He's doing little to douse the flames and is vowing to push on with his pension plan.
French demonstrators not standing down over President Emmanuel Macron's pension reform. Today is the 11th day of nationwide strikes and protests. The unions want the reforms revoked, but the latest talks with the government ended yesterday in a deadlock. Both sides are waiting for an April 14th verdict by France's Constitutional Council on whether or not the reform is valid. The council has the power to strike out some or even all of the legislation. For more on where the challenge to French pension reform goes from here, we welcome Ariane Vaughan to the program. She is a senior lecturer in French politics at Northumbria University. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good afternoon.
These meetings between the government and unions, what happened, and was it expected that a compromise could be made?
No. What happened yesterday was fully predicted, as in they both, they met and nothing happened. This is because both sides made very clear that they were sticking to their position. So yesterday was more about political communication for the government. It was a way of showing that they're not hiding in a bunker, that they are talking to the unions, that they are engaging in social dialogue. And for the unions, it was a way of showing that they've really tried to do everything, but the government is deaf. So no one expected anything from the meeting yesterday. It's more a kind of political theater.
Okay. So when it comes to the retirement age, though, moving from 62 to 64, this is the biggest sticking point, what everyone is most angry about. Are the unions still saying absolutely no to any sort of increase, or is there room for negotiation?
At the minute, and certainly until we get the decision by the Constitutional Council next Friday, at the minute they are saying we are going to fight, and we are going to fight until the age is removed. So there is no room for compromise, and that has been the case right from the beginning. So it's, today is about, it's about maintaining pressure. It's about showing that the opposition is still strong. It's a show of determination before the eagerly awaited decision by the council.
Mm-hmm. Now, beyond keeping up the protests and the strikes and things like that on the social level, I mean, how far can the challenge to this reform go? What other cards do the unions potentially have?
Well, what's really important next Friday is that the council is not just going to decide about the reform, but also about the validity of a referendum, the RIP, referendum of popular initiative. If it's valid, then the proponents will have 9 months to gather at least 4.7 million signatures, and the union might then switch to campaign to get as many signatures as possible so that it can eventually go to a referendum. But that's a long process. That's, it can take up to a year or a year and a half. But that's another card that the union can play if it is accepted by the council. And that's why the decision next week is really important, because it's two decisions, one on the reform and second on the referendum.
So this could potentially be a very long and drawn-out process. I mean,
I'm afraid it is, yes.
What are some of the other potential outcomes, or what do you believe is the most likely outcome here?
Right now, I don't know, because I want to know what the council is saying, because obviously, if the council is rejecting the whole law, then that will be it. That will be it. The law will not be able to be enacted. If it doesn't reject the whole text and just rejects some articles but keep the legal age, then anything is possible. It might die down because the government can say, well, look, we followed due process, it's been validated by the council, fatigue might kick in, or it might re-galvanize the opposition, who are going to hope to redo what they did in 2006, where the law was passed, validated by the council, and then had to be withdrawn under the pressure of the street. So it can re-galvanize the opposition. Honestly, it can last for many months, still many months, because we don't really know what the decision is going to be and what the reaction to this decision is going to be. So I'm afraid it's not over.
Okay. Well, we'll be covering it all here on France 24, of course, yes. And French politics expert Ariane Bogan. Appreciate you.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.